Good evening. My name's Rob Cucci. I'm a co-founder and the director of business development at Reslutions, and tonight I'll be talking to you about the value we're excited to create for this world. So the first problem we're addressing is the fact that college housing departments use a combination of paper-based systems, and the technologies they use are very fragmented. Second, over 10% of roommates cannot coexist, and the housing departments need to take action. Lastly, schools need a better way to assess and mitigate threat when it comes to student behavior. So we've already developed a platform that digitizes and streamlines all processes when it comes to housing departments. We're currently developing a fun yet effective way for students to find that ideal roommate. And lastly, we're also developing a threat assessment tool to communicate vital and time-sensitive information to the people that need it and when they need it. So let's look at our market. You've got around 4,900 colleges here in the US alone, and these schools spend a little over $39 billion annually on IT solutions. This is expected to grow by 4.1% this year alone. So we've done several customer interviews, and our market's very excited about social and mobile solutions, and we're listening to them. So looking at the competition, you can see that over 80% of our market's still on the table, up for grabs. They are in the same space as us, yet doing something different. Now, these are two organizations that have taken a social approach to roommate matching, but really haven't done a good job at it, and we can do better. So product differentiation and a consultative sales approach really set us apart. But how are we going to go out and actually grow a client list? We're going to exhibit and demo at conferences put on by organizations that you see appearing now. We'll also present the research we're doing at these same conferences to gain credibility, and we're currently partnering strategically with the other organizations that you just saw appear on the screen. And lastly, we're branding our sales force as a business development partner network. This has already been rolled out. And again, our approach is to sit down with these clients, really understand what their needs are, and put together a solutions package based on their needs. But how do we make money? So we operate off of a subscription model based on a tiered pricing structure. Pricing is dependent on the number of solutions your school needs and the number of users at that school. So we're also implementing a freemium model for the compatibility-based roommate matching feature, and we want to get in there between September and January to really talk to these decision makers and get them to pull the trigger on our offering. So within 3 years, we're projecting just under $10 million in revenue, with about $5.5 million being retained as earnings. And you've got a very committed team behind this that's passionate about the value we're bringing to this market. We all work in student affairs, so we've got that domain knowledge. We also have very relevant experience outside of that domain. Furthermore, there's a very well-rounded and dynamic advisory board behind us that's eager and excited to see us succeed. So looking at the traction, we've saved guests and residents to date over 35 days of waiting time. We've saved this school over $5,000. We've got $10,000 in accounts receivable. 85% of our power users say their work life would suffer without us. And we've got 5 conversations going on with 5 other schools. So we got a long ways to go. We got a lot to learn. We're looking for advisors, mentors, closing some seed running. Anybody in the audience that's ever benefited from what we do, you say, I love Reslutions.
I love the cheering section. Clearly, the entire audience is behind you.
That's some user validation, if I might say.
In the past, the audience counted for part of the judging panel, but sorry, not this year. So please, some questions for the team.
The matching is the obvious part, but you talked a bit about the risk assessment, which I think is really the interesting side of this from the colleges. Could you talk more about what it is that you're actually doing and how that differentiates you from the other competition that's out there?
Regarding threat assessment?
Yes.
Sure. So actually, there's a senator out of Arizona, and feel free to chime in, guys, but he's proposed legislation that would mandate a threat assessment solution be implemented not only in the community colleges and universities, but in every elementary and middle school. So to your point, the competition surrounding that feature, there's 2 people out there doing it, Maxient and Campus Check, neither of which have really gained traction, and neither of which are doing it in a way that these legislatures and these schools are looking for. So I don't know if that answers your question.
So why is that not answering the need? What's the difference between what you're doing and what they're doing?
Sure. So what they're doing is really pretty much I don't want to say whimsical, but our threat assessment tool is based on NBITA framework. NBITA is a National Behavioral Intervention Team Association. They've actually developed a framework, a hierarchy, if you will, that tracks different threat levels, and we're partnering with them to come up with this solution. So that gives us a little bit more credibility. That's something that these folks aren't doing, and they've kind of come up with it on their own and are saying this is a way to do it, whereas we want to go to that credible source that's nationally recognized, partner with them, and have them help us do it.
So can you talk, this is, I guess, a recurring question I've been having, but just in unit economics, so you talk about a $62 billion market, but then, I'm trying to understand how that breaks up, like, with what you're specifically doing. Because $62 billion covers a lot of things in IT, Absolutely. Right? So just, if you think about what you're providing, what do you think, first of all, you talk about like $5,000 in cost savings, so what do you think a school is willing to pay, or have they already engaged in any sort of, relationship with you? What is the pricing per school?
Yeah. Sure, I'll take this one too. So we have 10,000. We've got about $10,000 in accounts receivable we implemented here back in Pace University, and what the customer is willing to pay, pretty much based on the solutions we've implemented here, it's anywhere between $10 and $15 per student. And to your first point, out of that $62 billion market, we actually looked, and based on 2009 numbers, about 30, I would say, 20 to 30% of that IT spend is for enterprise software, and we're going to go ahead and throw ourselves in right there.
But you're focusing only, I'm sorry, you're only focusing, though, on the roommate matching area, or are you focusing on much broader areas than that?
I would say much broader areas today, and it's a little early to say we're pivoting, but we set out with a initial set of assumptions. We went out, validated several of them. The market likes what we're doing, but there are much bigger opportunities outside of college housing departments and more related with student affairs when it comes to a threat assessment tool and things like that. And so we're really listening to the market and trying to leverage our core competencies to go ahead and get out there and capitalize on those opportunities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.